And it's interesting to look into the Book of Enoch as far as this Nephilim ritual hypothesis, because it does find some support in First Enoch.
Here's what we have in this mess. And believe me, this is why scholars of Jewish angelology just want to pull their hair out. You have watchers in prison in Tartarus, or the abyss. You have watcher spirits that are still free to go run around the earth. These spirits can change form. You have giants fathered by the spirits, the watchers, apparently referring to the original offenders of Genesis 6 who were in prison. But then you have giants themselves called watchers or evil spirits. And then you have them in the earth and on the earth. And pun intended, what in hell is going on here?
I think chapter 15 of the Book of Enoch is one of the most important passages because it really is hinting at this idea that there's a ritual dimension to what's being described here. So briefly, 1 Enoch 15 describes the Watchers as being born from men, not women this time, men, but having their primal origin in the Watchers. So it's as though the origin in the Watchers is somehow mediated by men, which opens up the possibility that it's men identifying ritually with that fallen angel in the act of conception. And then later in that chapter, we read that the spirits that proceed from the giants, so after they've been slain, remain on the earth, causing havoc among humanity, hungering and thirsting. Interestingly, it also tells us that the spirit born of heaven remains in heaven in some wise, and the one born on earth remains on earth. So it's like the origin of a thing determines where it's going to remain. And sure enough, in chapter 18, the angels are in some kind of a celestial station. It's a place beyond heaven and earth where they're being kept in prison for disobedience. And yet, at the same time, their spirits are assuming many forms and tempting humanity into sacrificing to demons as gods, chapter 19. So yeah, they're in a cosmic prison house beyond heaven and earth, but they're manifesting, projecting onto the earth. And the terms in which this spirit of theirs that they project onto the earth to tempt people is described are similar to the terms in which the spirits that preceded, the ghosts of the giants, have been described in chapter 15, in terms of corrupting humanity and in terms of thirsting, hungering in the case of the ghosts of the Nephilim, and wanting people to sacrifice, to make sacrifices in the case of the watchers. The sacrifices would be the way in which some semblance of quenching that thirst seems to be achieved, even though ultimately they cannot feed. We're told that they cannot feed. So we might posit that the Watchers were able to manifest some kind of an earthly form and possess human bodies. That's the Nephilim. But that the fallen angel and the ghost of the giant, the demon, are not ontologically separate. They're just two avatars of the same being. There certainly does seem to be some sense of bilocality, just going off what chapters 18 and 19 tell us. And it doesn't seem like too much of a leap that this subsumes the spirit of the Nephilim, that it was never really a separate entity. We can take the reference to the spirits of heaven dwelling in heaven as a reference, and this is speculative, to the idea that the human soul of the person engendered by the Nephilim ritual is redeemable, is salvageable. Human beings, after all, ultimately go to heaven. They can dwell there. They have some supernal origin in God. And so the contrast between the spirit that can dwell in heaven and the one that remains on earth because it was created on the earth may have to do with the distinction between the human portion and the ultimately empty, ontologically unstable form of the fallen angel that was created as a giant to dwell on earth and whose true being is actually in that cosmic prison and not really on the earth at all. It doesn't have being the way other creatures do. Then again, since the Book of Enoch understands humans as being able to develop into an angelic form, it seems it really does present us with entities that are capable of biological union with humans. They're similar enough to humans for that to happen, and happen to produce non-viable, violent, gigantic offspring. And then the link to Mesopotamian political legitimation and that of other pagans would be encoded into the narrative by Israelite tradition, seeing the latter as sort of connected to this ancient event. That's one way to interpret it.